tonight. The investigation into Stephen Smith's death is making progress, according to SLED. The agency has been investigating this case since June 2021. Today, our Tara Jabor went back through the Highway Patrol's documents from Smith's death. Tara, you spoke to the Smith family attorney today and reviewed those documents. What did you learn?
Katie, yeah, we went through hundreds of pages of the case notes from Stephen Smith's investigation by MAIT. We also listened to audio files of interviews from Highway Patrol. And MAIT was trying to find out what happened to Stephen when he was found dead on July 8th, 2015.
When I got up to the scene, I noticed a young white male lying in the roadway with severe head trauma. Nothing at the scene appeared that it was a vehicular accident.
That's DB Rowell with South Carolina Highway Patrol in 2015, talking about the victim, Stephen Smith.
He had no abrasions, no torn clothes. His shoes were still on his feet, cell phone still in his pocket. Like I said, the only injuries that I noticed to this young man was to his head.
Smith was found with his cell phone and car keys in his pocket. That cell phone, Attorney Richter says, is unlocked and in the hands of SLED.
Yeah, I think Stephen's cell phone is a really big deal in the case. First, because it was still on his person, and to think that he walked 3 miles at 4 a.m. or thereabouts on a dark country road with his cell phone the entire time, and apparently never made an effort to call his sister who was nearby or to text a friend for help. I think that's a very fascinating fact.
Stephen's yellow car was found 3 miles from his body on Bamberg Highway. The doors were locked, his gas tank was open, and his wallet was inside. Attorney Richter says that's suspicious.
Can we really accept that his car having broken down with a cell phone in his back pocket, he walked 3 miles down a black, dark country road and never called for help? And if he was going to get some gas, he left his wallet behind.
MAIT interviewed dozens of people as they investigated Stephen's death in 2015.
What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and I feel like, especially the family, I mean, they deserve the truth.
At the time, they interviewed Mark Burkhart, a man who says he was dating Stephen at the time of his death. He says he spoke to Smith the morning he was found in the middle of the road and that the last time they spoke was around 3:30 a.m.
I asked him on one of the calls, "Are you walking?" Because he already told me he was out of gas. He was running out of gas. One of the calls before, and I says, "Are you walking?" Because I hear cars going by, and his answer to me was no. And then the call dropped. I couldn't come get him, and that was what I was saying.
Why couldn't you come get him?
I didn't have enough gas, and he didn't want me to come with the gas that was in the car.
The best news I've heard in 8 years.
Stephen Smith's death is being investigated as a homicide.
South Carolina Law Enforcement Division made that official overnight and even elaborated just in the last couple of hours, saying the homicide investigation actually began in 2021. Our Tara Jabor joins us now. And Tara, you've been following this story for, nearly 2 years now? This is something Stephen Smith's mother, Sandy, has been waiting so long to hear.
Tessa, Katie, absolutely it is. Sandy has never believed that her son died in a hit and run. She's always believed that he was murder. And now she's hopeful that SLED is investigating this as a homicide and that there will be justice.
The bombshell announcement came from Smith's legal team on Tuesday night following a phone call with SLED Chief Mark Keel, revealing, quote, they were waiting until the Murdaugh trial was over before making the announcement out of concern that witnesses would not be as forthcoming under the Murdaugh sphere of influence, end quote. SLED told the attorneys that more resources are being devoted to Stephen Smith's case now that the Alec Murdaugh trial is over. Now, Murdaugh was convicted this month of killing his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. And as for Stephen Smith, his case was originally classified as a vehicular homicide. Highway Patrol records show the Murdaugh name was brought up over a dozen times during the initial investigation.
Buster's name came up numerous times in interviews. And a lot of these people, I don't recall their names, didn't want to be, I guess, on the record. Well, this is what I heard, this is what I heard, this is what I heard, and it all was basically the same story.
We sat down exclusively with Sandy Smith and Tommy Moore, a former lieutenant with Highway Patrol who helped investigate Stephen's death in 2015.
Another
State trooper was out. They were out there walking the scene. I don't remember which one it was, and here comes the Murdochs. And they knew they were there to look at stuff, find out what was going on. But they told them they had to leave. They wouldn't let them cross over.
Sandy says at the time of Stephen's death, there were a lot of rumors from his friends about who killed Stephen.
I said, Stephanie, you can't listen to everything you hear. I said, you know, people's gonna talk. And I said, he wouldn't have no reason to hurt Stephen. You know, I was defending him. But then they kept inserting themselves, and I'm like, okay, something is not kosher here. I don't understand why they're inserting themselves.
Sandy says Stephen's late father, Joel, also heard from another Murdoch.
As Joel was waiting at the sheriff's department for T.C. Smalls to give him to identify Stephen, Randy Murdoch called him and wanted to help in the investigation. And you know, Joel grieving, you know, said yeah. And, you know, when we talked to him a few times, I even talked to him a few times. But now he's calling us a liar.
And we reached out to Jim Griffin and Dick Harpootlian today to see if they wanted to respond after attorneys for Smith questioned what he referred to as the Murdoch sphere of influence in Stephen's case. A spokesperson referred us back to the statement the attorneys released on behalf of Buster Murdoch earlier this week. It said in part, quote, "These baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false. I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family."
Tara, there's still a lot to unpack with this, a lot of follow-up questions. We have, first things first, we know the family initially called for Stephen's body to be exhumed. They started a large GoFundMe. It would also pay for an independent autopsy and some experts, as I understand it.
Yeah, Katie, absolutely. And we really don't know the date of when that exhumation could take place, but SLED did say that they'd like to work with the Smith family and the attorneys if they do decide to do that. And, you know, I sent a number of questions today to SLED about the case, and we asked to interview SLED Chief Mark Keel. We're still waiting to hear back about that. We also wanted to ask SLED a few more questions about what appears to be a discrepancy in a press release sent by SLED this afternoon in a SLED lab document from 2015 that our investigative team obtained. That document says the Hampton County Sheriff's Office specifically asked SLED Crime Scene to assist in the investigation of a possible homicide in the Smith case, but today SLED said, quote, SLED was not requested by the Hampton County Sheriff's Office or the South Carolina Highway Patrol to investigate Mr. Smith's death in 2015. And we did hear back, Katie, from SLED about that possible discrepancy. They referred us back to the original statement.